Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with each of you today. I get the toughest spot right after lunch, so I have to keep you somehow entertained and engaged through the next 15 minutes. So a little bit about me. I've been Executive Director of the Medicine Hat District Chamber since 2009. I'm one generation removed from the farm, so my dad was actually grew up on the family farm in Saskatchewan. Was born in Medicine Hat and in Schuler, and we took off to Calgary for a few years, decided that was a little bit too big, so went back to my dad's hometown in Saskatchewan for a while, and I moved back in 2005. So I do have an appreciation for the agriculture community. I definitely spent some time on the farm, driving quads, driving tractors, picking eggs, and spending some time in the chicken coop. So I do have a little bit of a background, but certainly was very much enlightened this morning by some of the presentations. I had said to Kelly before he left, I said, I learned a phrase a few years ago, and it was based on the 7 Ps. So prior preparation and planning prevents piss poor performance. So if you can take everything you learned through the sessions today and apply the 7 Ps, you should be good to go. So why the Chamber? Why are we here? Well, the Chamber has been really working to engage our agriculture community since about 2012, when we actively sought out an agriculture representative to serve on our board of directors so that we could have that voice around the table. Since that time, we've been working to further engage our district region, and we've gained a much stronger presence in agriculture since about 2017. Essentially, we were just picking up on our roots. Our founding members who created the Chamber back in 1900 were farmers, ranchers, or butcher, along with those support organizations like your butcher, your banker, your lawyer. So really, ag has always been and will always be our core industry within this region. And to further emphasize that, I think we don't pay enough attention to the importance of our agriculture community. It's kept our economy stable, and it certainly has played a vitally important role across our country and around the globe. The 2016 census of agriculture found that less than 1% of Canadians are farm operators. Yet we all know that all Canadians participate in the agri-food industry when they go grocery shopping and make food choices. Yet farmers and ranchers feel increasingly under attack because of the public scrutiny and the misinformation around this industry. The disconnect between the producers who grow the food we eat and consumers is widening due to urbanization, growing misperceptions, and a lack of factual information around this vitally important industry. The disconnect to emphasize the importance of our agribusiness industry. Based on the 2017 annual estimates, 75,100 Albertans were employed in agri-food industries, representing 3.3% of the total provincial workforce, with Alberta having one of the world's most productive agricultural economies, with a total farm area of 50.3 million acres. Despite the decline in farms since 2011 in our province, Alberta continues to rank second behind Ontario and had the highest number of cattle ranches in the country, representing 1/3 of Canada's beef cattle ranching farms. In addition, Alberta has seen increases in wheat farms, oilseed, and grain farms in addition to other grains. In 2018, Alberta's real gross domestic product for agri-food industries totaled to $8.5 billion, increasing from $5.5 billion in 2011. In 2018, Alberta agri-food exports remained strong at $11.6 billion, exceeding the 2017 record by 3.2%, and exporting to nearly 140 countries. We found that the agriculture industry faces challenges with public trust and education, a lack of well-informed and researched information that is getting to the public, and compounding regulatory challenges to top it all off. Of course, the ag sector is also having a much harder time with gaining that audience that they need, since, of course, less than 1% of the population feeds the remaining 99% of our country. And quite frankly, our egg producers are not social media marketing experts and have challenges in terms of getting their message and their stories out there. So that's why we engaged with our egg community to find out how we could help create a more unified voice for egg. So in 2012, we brought on local egg representation to our board. Of course, I'm sure everybody is well aware of the challenges and regulatory impacts in 2015 when the change in government had led to increased impact in the egg sector with some of the regulatory challenges and increasing barriers to your day-to-day operations. So we wanted to ensure that we added a unified voice to these efforts and to this vitally important industry. So in 2016-17, with our renewed egg focus through our strategic plan, we started to engage with industry and focus group meetings. And we also brought in a farm to fork feature for public education and awareness into our 2017 Great West Home and Leisure Show that we host. In 2018, we commenced agriculture forums, and we were part of forming the first National Agriculture and Agri-Food Committee of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. Just recently, in 2019, we've also developed policy positions focused on ag education and risk management improvement in particular, and we recently moved those initiatives and policies forward to government. When we held our forums, the primary issues that arose really fit into three main buckets. These included the need for public education around agriculture, a need for advocacy and a unified voice, and an emphasis on needing to be more proactive. And so the message was clear. We need to start working together in order to be more effective and have a stronger, more unified voice. We now have a number of positions that we have been lobbying for on behalf of agriculture, and we want to work with industry to be more proactive on the issues affecting you. We do have some agribusiness information. I have some with me if anyone is interested. I can follow up with you. I can send you some information in addition to an agribusiness resource page on our website. So all of that information is available. Some of our recent highlights in terms of the advocacy work have been around ag education. I know I've had a few conversations in terms of creating a more unified voice, and sometimes that's challenging because different producer groups have different priorities. But a few of the things that we've found is there are some unifying issues, and one of those is certainly the public education piece. We've been working with government since the fall. We've actually been working on ag education for about the past year. We formed a task force to take a look at ag education to see what resources were available. We found it certainly wasn't for lack of resources. There's a number of different resources available for ag education. But what we found was that it wasn't being delivered in the classrooms from a K to 12 perspective. And so we met with our school boards to determine what the barriers were, and we're able to identify a number of barriers in terms of why it wasn't being delivered. And the core of that is really because it's not mandatory, it's not required. So then you really do need to have a champion within your education system to be able to deliver that. So then we decided it was time to take our message to government. And so we developed a policy position, and the government recently had an advisory panel appointed by government to provide recommendations for the curriculum and drafted a new vision for student learning that will help shape the direction of education. We've gone through this report and we've seen some alignment, and our next steps again are to continue to meet with the Minister of Agriculture and Minister of Education to move those recommendations forward. We've been working on access to labor and have been working with training and human resource providers, including the Medicine Hat College, to look at solutions for agriculture labor force training, and work is starting in this area. We've also been asking industry to engage with us on what their needs are so that we can reflect these in the priorities and make sure that we're passing that information along. Of course, with the increased regulation, the Farm Freedom and Safety Act, Bill 6, was repealed. And so there's been a number of changes, and we've put out some information bulletins about how the new Farm Freedom and Safety Act impacts you and what it allows you to do. So of course you now have choice when it comes to workplace insurance. It now protects family farms from legislated and regulatory cost increases. It's ensuring basic safety standards on farms and recognizes that farms are unlike any other business, and farmers and ranchers require flexibility in meeting labor and employment standard needs. It delivers on the government's commitment to repeal the damaging policies of the previous government to ensure sustainable farms and help get Albertans back to work. And it minimizes the red tape and reduces the regulatory burden on farmers and ranchers. The Canadian Chamber has also released a report on cultivating competitiveness and turning agri-food regulatory reform promises into action. And so that report is available and something that we've communicated and continue to push for on a federal front. Of course, with global competition and trade, the Canadian Chamber, through our Agriculture and Agri-Food Committee, is leading the charge on that front and has a report and recommendations to government to keep trade free. We've been active advocates, of course, on the corporate tax changes that had come down a couple of summers ago and what it meant to our local businesses here. And we've also been involved in influencing risk management and recently adopted policy recommendations for government in terms of how to improve risk management programs. We were able to partner with the Calgary Chamber of Commerce to take representatives up to Canada's Agriculture Summit in January on the 16th. And so we took a bus and a number of delegates up to Calgary to hear from a number of industry leaders, as well as the Minister of Agriculture provincially, to hear about the importance of agriculture to the Canadian economy, what's happening with trade agreements, Canadian competitiveness and innovation, and in particular, aligning on advocacy. There were a number of updates and key messages, with the primary message being that we need to create a unified voice. We've also been involved in advocacy and education as it pertains to irrigation, and we heard a little bit about water storage and supply this morning, and met with a number of stakeholders and heard from a number of specialists within Alberta agriculture and forestry and environment and parks, and so have done an assessment in terms of opportunities and continue to do some work in that area. And as I mentioned, we continue to work on behalf of our local industry within the Canadian Chamber Agriculture and Agri-Food Working Group, and our chamber, along with others who are working in with their agriculture industries, were pivotal in forming this committee in 2018, and we continue to move priorities forward on a federal front. We're looking forward to a Hill Day in Ottawa at the beginning of May, where we'll have the opportunity to meet with federal ministers in different departments that have an impact on ag. We know the primary challenges for agriculture. There's a number of them, I get it. But a lot of it comes down to time, resources, and how to advocate and frame messages to government when we talk about some of these issues that are impacting you. But as a chamber, we're here to do that for you. We have the time, we have the resources, and we're experts in messaging and getting that information across. Your local chamber here represents well over 800 businesses locally. We represent over 25,000 provincially and over 200,000 nationally. So that means we're the largest, most unified and influential voice locally, provincially, and nationally. And through this unified voice, we're able to bring industries together from across all sectors with a common message and a much stronger voice and advocacy to influence meaningful change. We're able to work with various industry groups and sectors to carry our messages forward. And as we're a link between business and government and business to consumer, we have a unique advantage to create opportunities, and we have the strength to influence decisions. We specialize in advocacy for business, and we've built relationships with government to assist industry in moving our agenda forward. So obviously, why does this matter? Because in order to reach our full potential, we need to collaborate. We need to work together to nourish the world and foster sustainable development. We have a number of supporters. I know I'm going to get pulled off here right away. And so we need to align not only as industry, but as a business community as a whole. Our governments need to change the regulatory agenda to foster innovation and sustainability within our ag sector. We need to be able to work with academia in terms of research, innovation, as well as our future labor force. And we need to work with our community and the consumers to make sure they're educated. And so we have a number of different supporters that work with our chamber. And we want you to join the conversation. And I think that's it.